everyone, welcome. My name is Shanta Jackson. Actually, I'll start my video for those who just joined in. So, hello everyone, I'm Shanta Jackson. I am the Chief Executive of Cause Engagement Associates, and welcome to our quarterly webinar, third quarter 2019. And basically what we like to do with these webinars are to provide educational content. We like to feature other content experts. And if you have some great initiative or some great programming that you have going on in your local communities that you would like to highlight, or if you have expertise to share, we encourage you to contact us, and then and maybe we could also feature you on our next webinar. So our timeline is to have quarterly webinars. So we'll have another one by the end of this year. And I'll get started with introducing our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is Dr. Markel Graham. And he has served as the Associate Director, or he is the Associate Director of the University of Maryland's Educational Opportunity Center. And he brings over 20 years of experience in the field of educational leadership and administration. And he has dedicated much of his life to helping others, or to helping students overcome academic and professional obstacles. And prior to joining the University of Maryland's Educational Opportunity Center, Dr. Graham worked with several charter schools in the District of Columbia in the area of data and assessment. And in addition, Dr. Graham worked as an analyst in the accountability department for Charlotte Mecklenburg, excuse me, Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, where he trained teachers, principals, and area superintendents on how to analyze and evaluate data at the classroom, school, and district level. He has also had the opportunity to become a strategic data fellow at Harvard University for a year while working with that school district in their Office of Accountability. So thank you, Dr. Graham. And I guess we can just go ahead and I'll hand it over to you. So I'm going to stop the video. And like I said, I just kind of want to provide everyone with a human element so you can know who we are. But I'll stop the video and then we can proceed with the webinar. Thank you.
Great. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here today. Just a little background about this whole MOVEME model. It actually started, I would probably say, about 15 years ago. I just finished Temple University with my doctorate, and I was working with a nonprofit in North Philadelphia, and it was a nonprofit geared toward helping middle school and high school students around career and college readiness. And so I actually co-facilitated the class with another gentleman. I did the leadership component. So I posed 3 questions to the youth. The first question was, where do you see yourselves in 5 years? And you know, we talked about a class of maybe 40 students, and many of them said they didn't think they would be alive. So I said, wow, okay. And I said, well, what do you think is enough money to live off annually? You know, what do you think is it's a good standard of living? And many of them said annually maybe $15,000 or $20,000. And then I asked them the proverbial question around, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then they said, well, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, all these things. But I knew that they weren't on the trajectory to be that. It had nothing to do with intelligence. And then I had to think about what's actually going on with them. And then I thought, you know what? I said, if I can change their mindsets, I think I can help put them on the right track. And so that was the start of the journey. You know, so how would I go about changing their mindsets is the question. So I came up with this acronym called MOVEME. Thought deeply about it. It stands for motivation, openness, vision, exposure, mastery, and engagement. And from that point on, it's been a journey, a 15-year journey in how to help those that I work with, youth and adults, change their mindsets. So the objective today is for all of us to gain a better understanding of how your mindset and approach to leadership changes and impacts your choices and decisions that you make professionally and personally. You know, we don't know what's at play a lot of times. We're kind of on autopilot in everything that we do every day. We don't really take a lot of time to reflect on how we got to where we are today. And just as something as simple as getting to work getting to where you are, getting to listening to me at this moment. How did that all come about? Well, I challenge people to understand that we have to engage in reflection in order to better understand the choices and decisions we make every day. Okay. So in terms of learning outcomes and goals today, you're going to be, the crux of the MOVEME model stands for motivation, openness, vision, exposure, mastery, and engagement. You're going to learn more about that. We're going to delve even deeper into what these 6 outcomes are about. And fundamentally, they end up being what they call a leadership model. Okay. How do you see the need and take the lead? You know, it's all about leadership. Okay. So if you ask me the question, Dr. Graham, what is MOVEME? Well, MOVEME is a leadership model that promotes self-awareness and self-reflection through personal and professional and entrepreneurial development. So as I pose the question on the screen, I need to know me before I can lead anybody to the we. Do you know yourself, and how well? So before I can follow or someone can follow you, you must be willing to expose who you are, be your authentic self. And then that quite frankly means that you have to be honest about who you are. And there has to be meaningful internal and external dialogue. Okay. So really, we're talking about a process, which we all love, right? No, we don't. So the question, one of the major questions here is this: what's holding us all back from greatness? Okay. Some of us might think that we're pretty good at what we do, or we're in a good place, but are we great at what we do? And are we in a great place? So where do we find greatness within all of us? Is it in our heads? Is it in our hearts? Is it in the habits that we have, the discipline of habits, or hopes? Do we even hope? And how well do we hope? So we got to dig deep into those 4 H's: our heads, heart, habits, and hope. And those hopes are tied to dreams. So I was thinking deeply over the past couple of days about this. I came up with this other acronym called STEAM. So if we could visualize what STEAM is, we know what STEAM is, right? Well, my definition of STEAM is tied to your strengths, your tangibles, which would be your KSAs, your knowledge, skills, and abilities, your energies, your attitudes, and your motivations. That's your STEAM. Okay, so if we could visualize STEAM, that's what it is. So one of the questions I thought about, I reflected on is your steam evaporating? Okay. Is your steam evaporating? Is it just, you don't even see where it's going? It's no longer there. Is your steam directed? Is it focused on some area, you know, that leads to your desired outcomes? Or is your steam dispersed? It's just going all over the place. So you have to be mindful and aware or intentional about where your STEAM, once again, that STEAM stands for strengths, tangibles, knowledge, skills, and abilities, energies and attitudes, and your motivations. Where are they going?
Okay. Are these when it comes to community adult or young adult, these some of
Yes, yes, very much so.
and what type of activities
So
are included?
very good question. Well, we have open-ended probing questions, quite frankly, that engage them first in the MOVEME process, and then as we move through the MOVEME process, then we start thinking about how is this quote-unquote concept of STEAM relevant in terms of your motivation, your openness, your vision, exposure, mastery, and engagement. So we don't know where, in theory, where your STEAM is moving. So we have to start to reflect on, okay, this is where I'm directing my energies. This is where my motivation, this is where my time is being spent. This is where my energies are being spent. So we deconstruct who you are and what you've been doing and how you got the way you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So very good question. So moving my mindset, to take action. So now we have something kind of intangible called this mindset piece, and nothing you can really touch, right? But if you move into the action world, it actually produces something. So the question of go from move me to this whole STEAM discussion, can I harness my effort, my time, and my energy so that I produce my desired professional results? So what I'm trying to do is to take all these intangibles and make them concrete. So my background, a little bit of, I worked in charter schools. I was the director of assessment and data, right? So I was the guy working with numbers, explaining to people what numbers meant. I say the narrative behind the numbers, right? So I always had to be the person who dealt with the evidence. So I can't just tell you, hey, you work hard and that's it. Well, I got to see, well, if you worked hard, what did it produce? You told me, hey, Dr. Graham, I did X, Y, and Z. Well, it's always about what is the evidence, what is the desired outcome? Did you actually go from effort to results? Okay, so those 6 components again around Move Me stem from you being motivated, the openness piece. And we're going to go into detail about each one of the acronyms, the vision, exposure, mastery, and engagement.
Okay, so speaking of for individuals who want to again, human resources level, or if it's a community
Mhm.
how do you have for
Yes, I actually tailor the guide around the kind of results that we're looking for. So it's specific to the organization. So we would sit down and talk about, well, where are people performing at, and where do you want them to go? So Move Me would be that intervention piece to get them there, and I do conduct evaluative assessments to show that.
I guess the desired goals and desired evaluation goals of whoever. So there can be a pre and a post, and there can be a
Definitely.
follow-up from other activities that can
Definitely.
be assessed.
Sure, definitely, without question. We have to know where people are in order to move them. So, that's why I say we have to move the intangibles to the tangible. So we're always outcome driven. Okay. So now the intervention around Move Me, I'm a big proponent of reflective questions and the power of them. So one of the learning outcomes stems with understanding how do you sustain your motivation. Okay. So as I said, everyone is motivated by something. So one of the questions that I pose to my audience, or even to you, Shanta, is that what fuels your motivational self? Are you motivated in your professional practice by transactional, tangible outcomes, or transformational, intangible outcomes, or both? So we need to know what actually moves you, and what you do. How does this impact your performance if the transactional benefits are not realized? What if you don't see the tangible outcomes right now? Are you still functioning at a high level? What if you don't get that raise, that bonus, that tangible thing that moves you? What happens? What happens to you? So we need to know what's motivating you. Is it tangible or intangible? And then we need to assess, as I say, your motivational temperature to understand your thinking. So who are you? It's a black box. Everybody's motivated by different things. We need to know what motivates you. Okay. So the second learning outcome is around openness. I say that, remaining receptive when you have experienced setbacks. How do you handle setbacks and barriers or disappointments professionally? Okay. I say your professional DNA changes every time you encounter a perceived setback. Okay. Success, as I say, is usually on the other end disguised as disappointment. How many of us have, I'm sure many of us have suffered from disappointment. What do you think? And then the next one around vision. You know, what are the necessary steps, timelines, deadlines required to move your passion to greatness? Okay, so we all have to be passionate about something, right? Something that keeps us up at night, goals that we want in life. Have we done a nice risk assessment? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? You know, where are your blind spots to your greatness? You know, where are your opportunity zones? So we all have to reflect and understand and produce. See, we're the data driver here, you know, not someone else. So now we have to sit back and really reflect and say, well, gee, you know what? These are my opportunity zones. This is where I'm my best at. This is where I'm my worst at. You know, this is where I'm going to take on, you know, my risk benefit analysis is kind of shaky right here. So we have to engage each other in this process. And then exposure. We all need to understand what is driving our innovative self. Does music, culture, people, family move you? Are you a creature of habit in your daily, weekly, or monthly routines? What creates new thinking? How often do you come in contact with ideas and different viewpoints? What are you seeing? What you see is what you become. And then mastery and expertise. How about that one? What are your areas of professional expertise? Would someone pay you for your professional expertise? Explain why or not. Is your life building your level of experience and achievement? So it's not enough to have 20 years worth of experience or 30 years worth of experience. That's not enough. We actually have to know, hey, this is something, would I call you up because you're excellent at what you do, that you're an expert? You know, who's reaching out to you? Who's paying you? So we move mastery, professional expertise, professional experience into expertise, which is very tangible, okay? And then engagement. How do you build trusting and collaborative relationships with people professionally? You know, why would I trust you? You know, are your relationships intentional, accidental, passive in nature? You know, how do you sustain these relationships, these trusting relationships with people? Just think about it. So in terms of the model, so we're talking about people being motivated to be their best self. We're talking about being open to new ideas, open to new opportunities. We're talking about vision. You know, what do you see? What are your blind spots? What do you don't see? What don't you see? Exposure, who are you around? How do you handle situations? Diversity of thought, mastery. You know, are you really good at what you say you're good at? And then engagement. How do you build trusting relationships that stay, that last? And that's part of the Move Me process. And so when you start talking about concept of how do you move that steam, well, we're talking about harnessing all that effort, all that time, all that energy in order to produce something great. I don't know if you all are familiar with the iceberg illusion that has been around. You know, you have the iceberg, and underneath the iceberg, you have all these different variables of people being disappointed and setbacks and all kinds of things that people don't see in order for you to be great. Well, if we can harness that steam, we can move that iceberg. And I certainly believe that we all have the capacity to be great at what we do. So I certainly would like to open it up to some questions. The model has been utilized, I would say, over the past 15 years in all the work that I do. I've been in different places. I've been in the District of Columbia. I've been in Prince George's County. I've been in Philadelphia. I've been in Charlotte, North Carolina. And everywhere I go, people are suffering and dealing with the same issues around how to harness their mindset for greatness.
And so let me know if you cannot hear me. I posed a question earlier and I received some notifications that you couldn't hear. Weird. So I'll pose the question again.
Okay.
So the comment at the time you were talking about assessment.
Yes.
And so my question to you was, with the MOVEME leadership model, if individuals wanted to adopt this as an intervention, what type of assessment tools are provided either in the book or working with you directly? If you can provide some examples of that.
Well, the book pretty much relies on building assessments. We're assessing your thinking with, that's why I created the book to be qualitative in nature and also to pose questions in each of the chapters, because the book is meant to be very assessment in nature. Mm-hmm. So if you answer the questions, we're both assessing where you are. And so I get to ask like as many questions as possible. So we get to move you from one point to the next point. So, I mean, I can always craft additional assessments, but the book is assessment driven. So if you read it.
Okay. Because in my mind, I'm thinking as an evaluator or as a program planner, mm-hmm. I'm thinking, can I develop a some type of pre-assessment so that I can know where their my participants, where their mindset is pre-intervention. And then post-MOVEME, of course, a post-assessment, or if there's some type of follow-up, but you're saying that you can actually work with individuals to help them to guide that, or they can use the book in itself as a guide, right, to do that.
And I've created pre and post assessments also, mm-hmm. around the intervention. So I mean, it works multiple ways. So I've created pre-assessments, and the book is assessment driven, and then I've created post-assessments. So certainly anyone interested in delving even deeper into the assessment level, we can work collaboratively and to make sure that we reach the outcomes we're going at.
Okay. And does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Graham or any questions for me related to the type of, just me in general, or the type of work that we implement at Cause Engagement Associates? Let's see, I'll give you a few minutes to respond. Again, if you consider yourself to be a subject matter expert or have experiences and learned lessons in a certain topic, and it could be related to public health or the social determinants of health, professional development, even if you are a consultant and you feel that the work that Cause Engagement does aligns with the work that you're doing, or if you have a great evaluation project or some or your program that you would want assistance with for disseminating, please do contact us. Our email address is info@causeengagement.com, and we will post this webinar online and within a few days. And then for those of you who did participate, you will also have the opportunity to complete an evaluation survey. So again, thank you for your time. I'll check one more time to see if we have any questions. And I don't see any, so we will end this webinar. Again, thank you, Dr. Graham, for your time.
Thank you.
And again, I'm Shanta Jackson, Chief Executive of Cause Engagement Associates, and thank you. Bye-bye.